All right, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of Birds on the Farm, our second live streamed episode. As always, I'm Sandy. We're joined by Kareem today, and we've got a ton of exciting stuff to talk about. We're going to start with some chatter around the major league roster, talk about some of these bullpen issues, talk about some solutions that Kareem has brought to the table. Maybe the organization should take some notes and listen to a very smart man. And then we'll dive into a little bit of prospect stock watch, who's raising their stocks, whose stocks might be dropping a little bit. We'll see. And then at the end of all that, we will be taking some Q&A today. So if you've got questions, please throw them in the chat. We love interacting with our chat. It's going to be a ton of fun today. So just thanks so much for joining us. All right, let's just jump right into it. The Cardinals bullpen this year sucks, right? There's no way around it. It's terrible. It's not just bad, it's really bad, and it's killing us. Cardinals have lost 5 in a row. They're now 9-14. I've already seen people posting the eliminated from postseason contention graphic on Twitter, and it is April 22nd. Unfortunate so far. The bullpen is a huge part of the problem, though. And by my, count in the car on the way back home today, it looked like the bullpen is responsible for roughly 8 or 9 losses. I think that's about right. Kareem, what's going on? What is so bad? Why does everyone suck in the bullpen this year?
Yeah, Sandy, it's tough seeing, someone like a Ryan Fernandez had so much success last year. Obviously, the Cardinals acquiring him in the Rule 5 draft from the Red Sox. He was emerging as one of the top bullpen options in this Cardinals organization last year. And we saw that especially in that first half of 2024. And, heading into this year, I know that the second half, he didn't perform quite as well, but we thought that this guy would be a staple as one of the top, high leverage guys in the bullpen, and someone that could potentially take that leap up to, being an 8th inning guy, or in a post Ryan Helsley world. Some people were throwing around the idea of him being a closer, at long term for this organization, and it's been a pure abomination so far. He's struggled a lot, and I don't think the Cardinals expected that out of him. I don't think the Cardinals fans expected that out of him. So it's tough to see, him not perform the way that we know he's capable of, especially, like I said, the way that he pitched at the start of last year, that first half of the season. But yeah, aside from him, obviously, Jojo Romero hasn't looked particularly great. I thought that some of his underlying metrics in 2024 showed that, we should expect some regression. And so far this year, he hasn't pitched particularly well. John King, I know that he's your guy, Sandy, but he's not performing well either. So, all around, I know Helsley's still Ryan Helsley. I know that he had a blow up game at the start of the year, but he's still Ryan Helsley. He's got some of the most premier stuff in all of baseball, and I don't have any worries about him. I think Kyle Leahy has taken a step up this year. We can talk more about him after we finish this bullpen talk, but really impressed by what I'm seeing from Kyle Leahy. He added a 2-seamer this year, which is working pretty well against righties, using that in the inner third. And, with him having more of a cut ride for team shape, it gives him a more distinct heater that he can use against righties, especially. And the sweeper continues to take steps up from what we had seen last year. It's more of it's a newer pitch in his arsenal. I think he added it in 2023, if I remember correctly. And that pitch has continued to develop. I think it's his best offering in terms of pure stuff. And watching him just continue to develop feel for that pitch has been fun to watch this year. The changeup has been pretty good as well. So I think Leahy has been impressive. He's emerging as the third option in the bullpen after Ryan Helsley and Phil Maton. I know that he didn't have a great appearance this last time around, but for the most part, he's been phenomenal. I think he was an excellent addition at the time, and that remains to be the case right now. I think he is certainly their second most valuable option in the bullpen right now, right after Ryan Helsley, and we're seeing him get those high leverage innings, as the 8th inning guy so far this year. So between those top 3 guys, Helsley, Maton, and Kyle Leahy, he's really emerged, as I said. I feel pretty confident in those three guys, and the Cardinals organization does as well. It seems like Leahy getting important innings these past few games he's pitched in, but besides those three, the rest of the bullpen hasn't performed the way that we want to see them perform. And even a guy like Chris Roycroft, he started the season on the big league club. I had high expectations for him. He didn't perform well at all. The command was all over the place. The sinker shape wasn't, what we had seen from 2024. But I have some, positive news in that regard, Sandy. So he's made 2 appearances so far at AAA. And, the sinker is back to 2024 levels of depth. So I'm just gonna read some numbers out. Last year at the major league level, his sinker was 96 miles an hour with 1.5 inches of induced vertical break. And so far in his MLB tenure this year, the pitch was 94.1 miles an hour, but with 8.7 inches of induced vertical break. And when we're talking about a sinker, more ride is not good. You want the pitch to drop more. That's why the lower number for induced vertical break is good. And I mean, that's significant. We're talking about 7 inches of vert difference from last year.
That's big.
That's not going to cut it, especially when we have someone like a Roycroft that wants to use that pitch against left-handed hitters. Having that pitch have more, or I guess less induced vertical break, more drop, right? I think it's more of a platoon neutral offering, more of a weak round ball generating offering. And I think Chris Roycroft is someone that needs that. And getting back to what we have seen so far at Memphis, the pitch is back to that 2024 shape, if not even a little bit better. I mean, 95.7, just a hair down from that 96 we saw at the major league level last year. And he's averaging negative 0.1 inches of induced vertical break on his sinker between his two appearances so far. And he even threw a sinker his last appearance that had negative 8.4 inches of induced vertical break, which is pretty much curveball level depth, but for a 96 mile an hour sinker. So
it's pretty awesome. That's insane.
Absolutely insane. And I know that Roycroft was sent down. I'm not sure when he's going to be eligible to come back to the big league roster, but when he's eligible, I want to see this guy in the big league bullpen, because seeing him get that sinker back to that 2024 shape, I think that's paramount for him. He's still throwing that gyro low 90s pitch that he added this past year. So it's not like this new sinker or getting back to the old sinker shape has affected that. So I think he is certainly one of the most intriguing options in the bullpen when we're talking about guys on the 40-man. So I know that he hasn't performed well, even in the 2 appearances that we saw at Memphis. It wasn't like he was performing at a high level, but I do think that the improvements in the pitch shapes, the sinker especially, I think that that's what I'm looking at. And I do think that Chris Roycroft is someone that should get back on the big league team. And, we talked about Ryan Fernandez. I think he needs a breather. I think he needs to go down. This is now year 2. So last year, he had to be on the major league roster for the full season with being a Rule 5 guy, but that's not the case this year. And I think he would benefit from some time at AAA over the past, at the end of last year, heading into this year, he hasn't performed well. And I do think that he needs some time to just figure out what's going on and get back to, the pitcher that we saw at the start of the 2024 season.
Yeah, I mean, it's huge to hear that Roycroft is looking better. And even if the numbers aren't necessarily like there in Memphis, the peripherals being there bodes well. And it'd be hard to get worse than this bullpen right now. Like, let's be completely honest. You bring up John King. Like, as a John King supporter, it is unfortunate to see what's gone on so far this year. And you could argue that John King's actually been kind of lucky to be where he's at. I mean, he's 4th percentile expected ERA. That's really bad. The ground ball rate's still super high, but King's a guy that was able to get by last year with the low strikeout rate, but that low rate was still about 15%. Now you're looking at sub 10%. Like, single digit strikeout rate is, you're not going to be able to make that work. I don't care how many ground balls you get. And he's still inducing ground balls at a high rate, but it's just not looking good. It's unfortunate. For Ryan Fernandez, Ryan Fernandez is WOBA hitters weighted on base average against him is like 480. So basically everybody hitting against him turns into Aaron Judge. Like it just is not working. I don't care. You can't hide those guys in your bullpen. And the problem is right now the Cardinals are rostering 3 or 4 of those guys at once. And they've decided that it's a brilliant idea to take a man out of the bullpen to build that 6-man rotation, which, I mean, yeah, it's brilliant when you've got one of the worst bullpens in baseball. So it's just unfortunate. Obviously, Roycroft is going to be coming back soon, or at least it seems that way, because Fernandez, you're right, needs to take a breather. And they've really only got like 3 guys that are, penned in there for the rest of the year right now, because the rest of this bullpen is so bad. What other solutions are there? Because, I mean, even if Roycroft comes back up and is great, like, you can't win games with a 4-man bullpen. And we're seeing that right now. Ali Marmol, he's taking a lot of criticism this year, but his hands are tied. If I'm Ali, it's like, I'm damned if I do, damned if I don't. If I go to, the other night, people are pissed. They tie up the game in the 9th on the Brendan Downey homer, and they want him to go to Helsley, but you bring in Helsley to force extras, and then you don't pitch Helsley in extras, and you still probably lose the game unless your offense finally comes through in extras for the first time this year, which, that hasn't happened yet either. Look at the Pittsburgh game. Look at the game in Boston. So plenty of things to be frustrated about there. So you can't win a game with 3, even 4 relievers. Like, it's not going to do the trick. So what are the other options here? I know there are other guys. Like, we're seeing good things from Granillo. We're seeing Swanson got a chance and looked pretty exciting at times. We're seeing, some decent stuff from Riley O'Brien. So who else do you think the Cardinals can add to this roster and start to patch this up before the season really goes off the rails?
Yeah, I think there's 2 options I'm thinking of. One is a lot easier than the other.
Okay.
Riley O'Brien's already on the 40-man spot,
Yeah.
so we can just bring him up. And O'Brien has some of the loudest stuff in the organization.
Mm-hmm.
I know that last year when he did get an opportunity, he missed a lot of time with injuries, but when he did pitch, he might not have performed exceptionally. It was, if I can remember correctly, it was an ERA over 9. It wasn't great.
Like one or 2 appearances though early in the year before that injury.
Yeah.
He gave up a home run to like Shohei Ohtani or something like that, I think.
Yeah, but as far as just stuff, like, it's exceptional. I mean, sinker averaging 98 miles an hour. He's topping close to triple digits. And, with the extension he's able to get, the pitches are a bit harder than, the actual velocity. So he's got that sinker, obviously, the sweeper, 83 miles an hour, 18 inches of glove side movement, and also has that bullet at 89 that helps to bring his arsenal together. But so far this year at AAA, I mean, we've really seen the strikeout stuff on display, and I think the Cardinals could really use an option in the bullpen like that. I feel like there isn't a ton of swing and miss in the bullpen right now, especially when we got names like John King, at the helm. I mean,
yeah, even like Leahy doesn't have a ton of swing and miss,
Right. So I think having a guy that's got a little bit better stuff, someone that's going to be able to miss bats, might be, the direction that the Cardinals should go in. But we'll see. I do think that Fernandez needs to be sent down, and O'Brien is certainly one of the 2 options that I think makes the most sense. Probably the most sense considering he's on the 40-man roster. But the other guy I want to throw around, Andre Granillo, off to a really hot start in 2025. In 8 1/3 innings so far this year, it's a 1.08 ERA. The strikeouts have been there, much like O'Brien, 14. And he has only allowed 2 walks. So 6.3% walk rate, which is down from 14.9% in 2024. And, Granillo, the biggest thing with him has always been, keeping that walk rate down. And he's done that so far. The slider looks exceptional as always. He's leaning on the pitch over 50% of the time. And, the pitch has a 69% whiff rate. Maybe don't tell what's his name, the Cardinals announcers that about that number, Chip Carey. But
I love Chip for what it's worth. He's fantastic.
But yeah, like Granillo's slider has always been the plus pitch for him. I really like his changeup as well, and he's really executing on that pitch better than what we had seen in 2024. So I do think that out of the options at AAA, O'Brien, easier name. I think that if they were to call someone up to replace a Ryan Fernandez or someone else, I think it would be him, just considering he's on the 40 man. But Andre Granillo is someone that Cardinals fans should definitely be watching. I do think that this is someone that gets added to the 40 man at some point this year if he can continue this success. And I do think that Granillo has the stuff to be a big league contributor. With that wipeout slider that he has, the improvements, the changeup, fastball shape is mediocre at best, but he's still living in the mid 90s. So I think he can put it all together and be a option in the bullpen at least, and be added to this Memphis shuttle. But he's currently not on the 40 man, so I think easier option right now would be O'Brien.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right that they need to make a move and put him on the roster. The problem is the Cardinals' hands are kind of tied with roster construction right now, because you've got a couple of older pitching prospects that you've got to protect, you've got to keep around. It's nice that Tink Hence, it sucks that Tink Hence is on the 60-day, but it's helpful to free up a spot at least there. But I mean, right now they've got a couple other guys on that 40 man, including like a Roderick Munoz, a Michael McGreevy, who we know is going to be a starter, but they don't have room for him right now. Obviously, you've got Chris Roycroft, who we think is coming back up soon, Matt Svanson. How do you feel about Ryan Ludos staying around? Do you think he's an option, or, he's on the 40 man. Should he stay on the 40 man? What are they doing?
Yeah, I mean, Ludos, I'm not the biggest fan in his profile. I do think that, his story is really fun. Obviously, helped the Cardinals build up that Chirps app for their minor league, data evaluation and all that. But is he another option that they could bring up? And he's currently on their 40-man roster. I think that his changeup has shown growth. It's a pitch that gets really good depth. He's still someone that lives in the mid 90s with his heater, pretty poor fastball shape. But he's got some deception to his game, has a slider in the mid 80s. Is he, considering he's on the 40 man, could he be another guy that gets brought up? Sure. But I don't really see the potential in him being a staple in a big league bullpen. I think he's more of a guy that, is fine as one of your last guys on a 40 man, someone that can give you a couple innings here and there at the major league level. But I don't think there's a ton of upside in him becoming a staple in a big league bullpen, and that's why I'm a little bit higher on some of these other names like a Granillo or even a Riley O'Brien that has really loud stuff, or to a lesser degree, but Matt Svanson is someone that I like a lot as well. So. Yeah, I think one of the less intriguing options in the bullpen, but could he give you innings? I mean, the Cardinals are needing production out of the bullpen, and this is someone on the 40 man at least. So could we see him at some point this year? Yeah. I hope that, he's able to have success, but definitely not the most exciting name out of the, crop of relievers in AAA.
No, I think you're absolutely right. You mentioned Svanson. Let's jump in there. Svanson, MLB debut the other day. Awesome to see that happen. For those that don't know, the Cardinals got him at the 2023 deadline from Toronto, I think, in the Paul DeJong trade. And I actually wrote an article over at Redbird Rants about how I thought he was the least exciting guy they got back at that deadline because he was old, he was struggling in Double-A. And now you look at a guy who's worked his way up to the major league level. It's great value for like 44 plate appearances from Paul DeJong before they DFA'd him over in Toronto. So super exciting to see that happen. And we've talked about him a number of times on here over the last year, just about how the profile is intriguing. He's a guy with like legit potential to actually factor into a bullpen. So how do you feel about that? He had a clean inning of work, which was nice to see. I think one guy got on against him, no strikeouts, but it felt like it was a solid debut.
Yeah, solid debut. And Svanson is a guy that currently has a 38 games save streak in the minor leagues.
It's awesome.
Which is fun. I will say, despite the streak, despite him pitching late innings, down in the minor leagues, I do think the profile is more middle relief type. I don't think Svanson's going to be a guy that's going to miss a ton of bats. Sinker heavy profile. He does live in the mid 90s on that pitch with a ton of arm side run, but I do think that at least as a middle relief option, someone that's going to get you ground balls with that heavy sinker that he throws. Has that sweeper in the mid 80s that gets plus horizontal, and he's really worked on improving his low 90s cutter. Dating back to the way he pitched for Toronto when he was in their minor league system, he was a heavy sinker sweeper guy. Didn't really have a comfortable third offering, but he's developed that low 90s cutter. I think it's a serviceable pitch now. And he's throwing it a ton against left-handed hitters, which was his Achilles heel last year. Found a lot of success against righties, but wasn't able to carry that same level of success with that East-West mix against left-handed hitters. They slashed 342, 440, 500 against him. So seeing some improvements in that regard against left-handed hitters is encouraging. He's like I said, the cutter, he's really developed that pitch, and he's turned it into a serviceable offering. And I do want to see him carry this success for a longer period of time. We're still, very early in the season. But if he can at least hold left-handed hitters at bay, like he doesn't need to, get them out as frequently as he does against righties. I think, with the sinker sweeper, he just profiles a lot better against righties. But if he can at least hold his own against left-handed hitters, I think that he could profile as, a middle relief option, which, the Cardinals could use someone like that, obviously. So not the craziest strikeout guy when we're talking about a Matt Swanson, but someone that could fill your middle innings with a lot of ground balls. I think that's the pitcher that he is. And I think the Cardinals, it's cool to see him get that opportunity at the next level, and really interested to see, how he performs this year.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I think that about does it for the Memphis shuttle. Are there any other relievers that you want to talk about? I mean, I know there are other guys. We could talk about the starting situation. We could talk about Matz. We could talk about getting McGreevy into the rotation. But for the most part, I feel like that mostly does it. Is there anybody that we need to keep our eyes on moving forward, though?
Yeah, I'll throw around one more name, Michael Gomez.
Okay.
He was a minor league free agent signing. He's a really funky right-handed pitcher, sinker, sweeper kind of guy that has a four-seamer that has a pretty flat approach angle as well from that low slot. I think that, so far this year, he's yet to allow an earned run, and, he's played really well. So that could just be another option to throw around. He's not on the 40-man, but performing really well at AAA, has some fun traits. And, if the Cardinals are needing another option in the bullpen besides, who they have, and even Andre Granillo, I think would be a step above Michael Gomez, just considering, how long he's been with the organization. I think he's just earned an opportunity, but Gomez is another guy to throw around for sure.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we're going to jump into the next segment of the show in just a second. But first, a quick word from one of our sponsors here, 314 Sports Cards. They're the presenting sponsor of Dealing the Cards and a sponsor of Birds on the Farm. They're located at 9640 on Olive Boulevard in Olivet, Missouri. They're open 10 to 6 Monday through Friday and 10 to 4 on Saturday and Sunday. They buy, sell, and trade all sorts of sports cards, Pokemon cards, whatever you're looking for, they've got it. They've got the newest selection of packs, boxes, and single cards. Whether you're looking for local players or stars around the league, go check out 314. It's an awesome place to be. They're super knowledgeable. They're super great to talk to. Seriously, go give them a look. And then one more message from another one of our sponsors right here.
The Dealing the Cards podcast is proud to be partnered with Underdog Sports, our favorite place to play fantasy games. You're now eligible to play in Illinois, Missouri, Indiana, and 37 other U.S. states. You got to check out Pick'em. It's so easy to play. You just pick 2 to 8 stats of your favorite players and choose whether they'll go higher or lower. You can win 20 times your money by going 5 for 5. If that sounds like fun, sign up with our promo code CARDS to claim your first free pick plus first time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. We can't wait to see your entries.
All right, little Josh Jacobs cameo right there. Let's jump into evaluating some of the early returns on young players at the big league level. I know we've kicked around these names on Dealing the Cards, but we want Kareem's take on some of these guys. The early returns on some of the younger guys. Let's grade some of these players. Let's just start with probably the biggest name here, one of the more polarizing names on the roster at this point. It is year 3 of the Jordan Walker experience. Where are you right now, Kareem?
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't been a great start. I know that
not.
there were some things at the start of the year. We saw him lay off those breaking balls at the outer half of the plate
Yes.
that uh, you know he was chasing a lot last year. So that was cool to see, at least at the start of the year. But even that, it feels like these past few games, he's starting to chase those pitches, which isn't a great sign. Walker, 21 games so far this year. We just haven't seen the power production. It's a sub 100 ISO. And I just don't think when you have a power driven profile like Jordan Walker, this isn't someone that is going to make a ton of contact per se. I do think that the ISO numbers need to be there for him. And like a sub 100 ISO is just not going to cut it. He's hitting the ball. He's not hitting the ball as hard as you would think for someone that's got that kind of high level bat speed, which isn't a great sign so far. Defensively, I think we've seen some improvements for sure. At least in terms of his ability to finish plays. So far, in terms of 2+ star catch opportunities per Statcast, he's made 9 out of 11 of those opportunities, which is good. But I still think the jumps have been awful. It's a negative 1.4 feet versus average jump, which is still among the worst in minor league or Major League Baseball. And sure, has the defense checked out so far? Does he have a positive amount of outs above average? Sure, but I do wonder how sustainable this is. Would you just go and look back at Statcast leaderboards for people for players who had similar jumps, in 2024 and 2023, all of those guys had negative outs above average. So, I mean, over a long course of a season, I don't know if we can expect Jordan Walker to, make 9 out of 11 of his 2-star catch opportunities if he's going to continue to take poor jumps. So overall, like it's been disappointing. Like it's only been 21 games, so I'm not going to sit here and say that, Jordan Walker's a bust or anything like that, but I expected a little bit more. It's not just that he has a 215, 271, 304 slash line. The underlying data has not been encouraging.
No.
And we have to, admit that. We can say that, some of his at-bats have looked better, but he hasn't performed. He isn't hitting the ball hard. The quality of contact is not there for someone that, it needs to be there for. So like all around, it's been disappointing. If I was to give a grade, I mean, he's been a below average regular thus far this year. He was a below average regular last year as well. So he did play at AAA. The numbers were better there, but it wasn't like he was setting the world on fire at AAA either. So we're talking about, down 2024, 2025 so far, not taking that step up that we want to see. So it's been really disappointing. I'm going to be honest.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, Jordan Walker is probably since I would say I became baseball conscious, Jordan Walker is probably the most exciting prospect that I've followed all the way up through the system. Expectations were sky high, and I mean, it's fair. He's got all the talent in the world. He's got physical tools. He's big. He's very strong. He's an athletic guy. But we have to be realistic and look at this profile, right? It's good to celebrate the fact that he's making strides defensively, but you're right. It doesn't feel sustainable. And, some of these plays, it feels like Jordan Walker has good closing speed, but it takes him a minute to get to full gear in the outfield. If you just watch the broadcast, right? He makes plays that look really cool, but you think about how it looks when Michael Ciani makes that same play. It does not look very cool because he great jump, perfect route to the ball, and it's an easy routine play for him. So, I mean, that's one thing. The other thing is if Jordan Walker, even if he keeps being a slightly above league average defender, which let's be honest, people are saying, oh, there's red on the profile. So no, he's a slightly above average defender thus far. The profile doesn't hit. For Jordan Walker to be a valuable player, you need him to be a big bat. If you're going to play him in a corner outfield spot or someday at first base or even in a DH role, because he might not have a defensive home in the outfield for very long at all, he's got to hit for power. He's got to elevate the ball, and you're not seeing that right now. It's very disheartening where we are so far. You're right. It is only 21 games, but when you start to put it together with what we saw last year, the defensive struggles in 2023, the growing pains, it is starting to get frustrating to talk about. Of course, I still believe in Jordan Walker's talent. Like I said, he's got all the talent in the world. He's an immensely talented player. But you're right. We need to see more from him. I see people talking about the batting average, which was up early in the season. Jordan Walker can't be a singles machine. I know you've said that before, and I totally agree with you. Like, if Jordan Walker is going to be a viable big league player, you're probably not going to get a lot of value out of his glove. You're going to get a lot of value out of the bat. And the value is going to come from line drives and fly balls to the pull side that go for extra bases. Jordan Walker can spray it a little bit. With bat speed like that, you can spray. You can find the gaps. But that's what has to happen. He's got to hit for extra bases. He's got to lay off breaking balls on the outside and draw walks. And now it looks like he's pressing at the plate. It looks like he's starting to expand his zone. He's not doing as much damage. It's really frustrating. I hate to sound off on the guy because I'm a big Jordan Walker fan, but it's hard.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. And, just piggybacking off of what you said, I don't think Walker needs to be someone that's hitting 25, 30 home runs. Sure. You take that. Though. You take that, but you need to have more extra base hit production than what he's shown so far. He needs to hit the ball harder than he's shown so far. I don't think people realize Walker hasn't really been consistently hitting the ball hard. And when he does, it feels like it's never at optimal angles. So, forget the pulled fly balls, all that. I just want to see him get back to hitting line drives, right?
Yeah.
I'm totally fine with him going the opposite field, if he's getting a fastball at the top of the zone, just driving it the other way, hard hit, opposite field single. I want to see that out of Jordan Walker. I don't think we've seen that consistently enough. I also want to see him when he gets a breaking ball in the middle of the zone. I want to see him hammer it pull side. I just want to see him be more of a complete hitter. He doesn't have to hit for a crazy amount of power, but there needs to be some slug in there for his profile to hit, especially when he's whiffing as much as he does. And, that's all I'm asking for. I'm not asking for a 130 WRC plus bat. If he can be a 110, 115 WRC plus kind of guy that we had seen in his, first major league season, even with the below average defense, I know people think that he's all of a sudden going to be a plus defender. I've laid out why I don't think that to be the case. And sure, could he be getting closer to league average? Could he be by the end of the season like a -5, -6 OAA versus -10, whatever it was last year or the year prior? Sure, but I still think he's a net negative as a defender in a corner outfield. And I do think that he needs to provide some offense for that, for him to be at least average regular. And he's just not that right now. The wins above replacement is in the negatives for sure. Last year was negatives as well. And I just want to see a little bit more. I think offensively, it doesn't have to come via him, slugging at a, 500 clip per se, but we need to see more slug out of Jordan Walker for him to be a even average regular at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just, it's disheartening, one more thing too, you mentioned his inability to consistently hit the ball hard. And I gotta piggyback on that. You look at a guy who, when he does hit the ball, he crushes it sometimes, right? You're talking about, he's got a top 2% exit velocity in the league, max exit velocity, 116.5. That's the hardest hit ball in the StatCast era for the Cardinals. It was also a ground ball, and it feels like Jordan Walker does that all the time. He hits these burners, but those go for outs as often as they go for base hits. And they very rarely go for extra base hits. You got to pull it right inside the bag. You got to get pretty lucky. You're right. Even when he does hit the ball hard, it is not at optimal, launch angles. I don't know what they do. I don't know how they fix it. It just seems like there's a lot of problems right now at the plate, and they're not all the same thing. There's a launch angle problem. There's a problem laying off pitches on the outside half. There's a problem squaring balls up. I don't know. It is what it is. We can move on. I don't want to pile on because I am a Jordan Walker fan. Let's jump into Victor Scott. This is a little more positive conversation. Scott has taken a big step forward since last April.
100%. I mean, offensively, he just looks comfortable at the plate. And, he currently has a OPS around 700. I don't know if we can even expect that out of Victor Scott. some of the underlying data suggests that, that might not, he might be a little bit worse than that. He might be overperforming a bit, but the thing that's different about Scott versus Jordan Walker, I think there's legitimate defensive value in there. He's a center fielder. Unlike Jordan Walker, I mean, the jumps have been terrific in center field for Victor Scott. And I do think that long-term, Scott is someone that profiles as a plus defender at a premium position. And that is very valuable. I mean, we saw it last year with Michael Ciani, right? How valuable having a good defender at center field is. And Victor Scott's going to provide more offensively. I mean, I don't think we can say for sure he's going to be a league average bat right now, but even if this is someone that's flirting with, 75 to W8, 75 to 80 WRC plus for the season with his defense, I think you're still going to get at least average regular out of Victor Scott, which, I think at this point, if I see that, I'm not, sounding off the alarms, right? I think that this Victor Scott could be a really nice player for this team down the road. And that's really what I'm seeing out of Victor Scott. The defense has been good. He's been a 700 WRC plus or 700 OPS guy. And I think he's looked comfortable at the plate. He's making a ton of contact, but I do think even if we see some regression offensively, this is someone that has the defensive skill set to be able to carry that offensive production a little bit. And overall, I've been impressed. I've been encouraged by what I've seen. And I do think that VS2 could be the long-term center fielder of this team.
Yeah, super excited about what Victor Scott's been so far this year. You mentioned the 700 OPS. That's big. Like, if he can maintain, if Victor Scott, like the best version of Victor Scott is probably a couple years down the road, a guy that takes some steps forward at the plate, draws some walks, makes pitchers work to get him out and posts an OPS around like 760, 770 and wreaks havoc on the base paths. Like, that's the best version of him. And that's a really, really good player. That's a super valuable player. That's why when we talked about Scott in the past on Birds on the Farm and on Deal in the Cards, we've talked about him as like a high floor type of player where the defense is going to hit eventually. And this is one of the 5 fastest players in organized baseball. That's super exciting. He's a ton of fun to watch. He's a walking highlight reel, so there's a lot to like there. You're absolutely right. There is defensive value long-term. I think you are right. I think Victor Scott is going to find a home as the Cardinals center fielder. And it's good to find that guy because it felt like the Cardinals were looking for a while and they tried out a bunch of different players and Victor Scott's arriving. That's really good to see. I just feel like he looks so much more comfortable at the plate. He doesn't look nearly as overmatched as he did at times last year. You're right that the profile or, some of the peripherals aren't quite as encouraging as the surface level stats indicate, but Victor Scott might have the ability to outperform those a little bit just because of the speed. Like, he's going to steal some infield singles. He's going to leg a couple out. He's going to put pressure on defenses. He's going to steal a lot of bases. I'm excited to see the Cardinals really unleash him and turn him loose. Like, I want to see him steal more often. I want to see them let him run. That's going to be really, really fun. So he's an exciting player. Like, it's good to get more positive. Victor Scott has been really fun to watch this year. Objectively, not the problem with the team thus far.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add a little bit more. I mean, I didn't talk about his, base running. I mean, his base running's been elite. I mean, he's got 2 base running runs so far.
Yeah.
I believe 8 for 8 in terms of stolen base attempts.
Yes,
so
sir.
When you add that to his offense, I think, overall, I mean, he's providing a little bit above average offensive value, I would say, at least thus far. And I think it's safe to say that he could be, like I said, I don't know if we can expect him to be a 100 WRC plus guy by the end of the year, but when you factor in what he's providing with the bat, with what he's doing with the wheels, I think that, you could be getting at least average production offensively with the defensive skill set that he has, which is valuable for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And you look at a guy like Scott, he's already got 8 stolen bases this year. We are like 1/7 of the way through the season. He was on pace for over 50 stolen bases. That's a pretty big number. That's very fun, very exciting. And he's a guy that, it feels a little old school to watch him. It's really fun. So hopefully the Cardinals are able to use him to manufacture runs all year. Thomas Saggese, this has been great. Saggese he had one of the best series in New York of anybody on the team. He's hitting for power. He's putting the ball in play consistently. I feel like he looks really comfortable at the plate. I feel like he is making pitchers come to him. He's making them throw strikes. He's not expanding. There's a lot to like so far. And it's especially because the limited time we saw from him last year, it wasn't like the most exciting thing in the world. And he definitely didn't build. So he comes over in 2023, wins Texas League MVP, elite season at multiple stops throughout the minors. It felt like he took a step backwards last year. We had to temper our expectations a little bit. And now he's breaking out again. He's very exciting to watch.
Yeah, it took a little bit of time for Saggese to settle in at the AAA level last year. But when he did hit his stride towards the end of the year, I think we were seeing some of, the success that he showcased in the lower levels. Like you said, winning Texas League MVP. And, even dating back to when he was with the Rangers organization, this is someone that just hit at every level.
Yeah.
Saggese has a very aggressive approach at the plate. I know that he talked about potentially, being a little bit more passive at the plate at the Arizona Fall League, but we haven't really seen that so far. He's still susceptible to chase, but I do think that this is someone who has just an exceptional ability to handle breaking balls. And that's really what I liked so much out of his profile, and why I thought that he could translate his bat to the next level is, that advanced feel for not only making contact, but doing damage against breaking pitches. And, he's done that so far this year at the major league level when he's gotten his opportunity. I do think that long-term, I think that he's probably a fringe to average regular who probably has his most value as like a versatile 6-man kind of guy. I don't know. Like, I do think he can give you serviceable games as a starting player, but I do think that he's going to be like fringe to average kind of regular production, I would say. Defensively, he has been a plus so far at the major league level, but I think that he's more of an average defender long-term. Has an ability to play shortstop, but I do think that, we have Mason Wynn right now, so it doesn't really matter. I know he's on the IL coming back today, but Saggese long-term, probably a second base, third baseman. I do think that he can play some corner outfield to enhance his, positional versatility, but I've been impressed so far. Him just being able to hit breaking balls the way that he does is exciting, and he's found a lot of success so far. 989 OPS on the year.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, I have nothing negative to say about Saggese thus far. I'm with you. Like, we do need to temper expectations, and the Cardinals are in a hard spot because Saggese has been your best hitter over the last 5 or 6 games. He's been great. You're getting Wynn back, though, and you need Wynn to play shortstop. Like, Wynn's an elite defensive shortstop. Saggese is right now an average defensive shortstop over, small sample size. Probably not going to be an average defensive shortstop over a big sample size. So that's tough. But it's hard to get his bat in the lineup. Like, it sucks to see them bench him, but you also understand that the Cardinals need to play Walker. They need to keep getting him out there. They have these other guys that they can't bench. They're not going to bench Arenado. And so it sucks, but it's like Saggese is not going to get as many plate appearances with Wynn coming back, unfortunately. Maybe there's a way to get creative. You could definitely prioritize Saggese over a guy like Alec Burleson. That wouldn't bother me. But I don't think the Cardinals would make that move right now. I don't think they'd make that decision. So it feels like we're going to see less of Saggese, which stinks because he's been really good. What do you think they should do there? Do you think there's a way to get Saggese more plate appearances, or does it make sense to keep dreaming on some of these higher level guys and these guys with potentially higher ceilings?
Well, I mean, I think that's a tough question to answer.
It's really hard.
I do think that they could work out some way to, I don't know if it would be consistent reps, but if they're, playing matchups, but I don't know if you want to see that. I think we want to see Nolan Gorman get his opportunities. Nolan Arenado's still at third base. He's going to be playing pretty much every day. Donovan's moving all around, but he's still another name to throw around. And I just don't know if there's, enough opportunities here. I mean, where would they come by? Like, is he going to get those DH opportunities? Is Luke and Baker going to get sent down?
Yeah.
I just don't know. I don't think there's a clear pathway to him getting consistent reps. And like I said, I mean, I think long term he might profile best as like that 6-man kind of type. And in that sense, I don't hate him being on the bench. But I do think that he has the potential to be a regular, and he's still very young in his career. So I don't know if it's the best idea to just put him on the bench and have him play like 2 games every week. Like, I don't know if that's the best for his long-term value. I think that they could potentially extrapolate a little bit more. Him getting those everyday reps at AAA might be best for him, but
yeah,
I don't know. I would lean towards no, especially with Wynn coming back, but we'll see how they are able to navigate this situation. I do think that Saggese has earned the opportunity to get more reps for sure, the way he's played. And there isn't anyone that's setting the world on fire. Luke Baker, I think he's hitting decently well against lefties, but I don't think it's to the point where we need to see this guy every day in those matchups, right? And just, I don't know. We'll see what they do. I mean, Wynn's coming back today. I think we'll get a better picture of some of the roster moves that take place today. But I would like to see him stay on the roster. But at the same time, like if he's not getting consistent reps, then it might be better to just send him down.
Yeah, no, I think I'm with you. If you haven't noticed, there's a bit of a trend we're following here. We're going from our, most disappointing to most exciting. And so let's finish it off here with Liberatore. It's been exciting. It's been really fun to watch him have the most success he's had as a starter at the big league level. This is a guy who's been in the organization a long time, a much maligned guy in the organization, I would say. He's taken criticism that I don't think he deserves at times. People were talking about the Randy Arozarena trade as one of the steals of the decade, at some point in time, like how bad it was. And I don't think that's fair. I don't think it's fair to a guy who's worked his ass off as a member of this organization, who's progressed all the way through, who found success in the bullpen last year and seemed like he was finding a home, and now seems like he might be finding a home in the rotation. The peripherals, they're fine, but the results are really good. And to this point, like, Liberatore is not the problem with the rotation. He's not the problem with the pitching staff. And he's one of your more reliable starters. He's getting out there. He's eating more innings than known innings eaters like Miles Michaelis, who's not an innings eater anymore. And it's unfortunate. He's getting out there. He's getting after it. How do you feel about where Liberatore is at this point?
Yeah, it's hard to argue against the kind of production that he's had so far this year. I mean, he's logged 6 or more innings in all 4 starts so far this year. Talk about innings eater. Like he's been the innings eater of this team. I
love innings eaters.
So yeah, 3.60 ERA in 25 innings, 25 Ks to just 2 walks. I mean, that's impressive stuff.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, I did not expect this. It is only a 4-start sample, but I've always been skeptical on Liberatore, being a starter at the next level. I feel like when we've seen him pitch, his fastball just doesn't have enough oomph. I know the velocity is okay, but he relied on that pitch a little bit too much before this year. I think that, as the starts have progressed, I think he's doing a lot better job at using that slider as his go-to pitch, not only against lefties, but against righties. And he's found a lot of success doing that and back-footing that slider to right-handed hitters, which has been impressive. The velocity has been a little bit more consistent than we've seen in the past when he started, which is a good sign. But obviously don't want him to lean on those fastballs, the four-seam and sinker. But I do think that they're viable enough that he can throw them. It's just, in the past, when he relied upon those pitches as his primary pitches, I just don't think that's, going to work out with his skill set. And this year we've seen him lean on that, slider, which is his best pitch, more often. And, overall, like, he's controlling the ball really well. I mean, 2 walks in just 25 innings. That's pretty impressive. He's in the zone a lot. Hasn't worked to his detriment yet. We'll see how that, we'll see what happens in that regard as, his starts progress. If hitters are able to do more damage on, some of his stuff over the plate. But I think overall, I mean, he's mixed up his arsenal well against righties. Like I talked about, the changeup is a pitch that he's really started to bring into his arsenal. Hadn't seen him throw that pitch a lot, pretty much in his whole career. And it's been, one of his go-to pitches in right-handed matchups, which has been interesting to watch these past couple starts. I do think that we need to see a little bit more success in him, over the long run. It's only been 4 starts, but it's hard not to be encouraged by what we've seen so far. And hey, I mean, the Cardinals are giving a young pitcher an opportunity, so that's obviously a plus. And to see him, take those strides in terms of pitch usage and have a ton of success right now, that's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about the pitch usage here with Liberatore. He's throwing his four-seamer a career low 26% of the time. He's throwing his slider a career high 29% or 30% of the time. He's throwing it more than he did last year in the bullpen. Very exciting stuff. His sinker, he's throwing it a career low 13% of the time. He's throwing 6 or more pitches 8% of the time or more. That's awesome. That's a guy who you really never know what's going to come out of his hand right now. He's got 6 weapons that he's able to use. And I think he's keeping hitters, he's keeping hitters unaware at the dish. It's really great. And it's letting him, I mean, the slider's the best pitch. He's throwing it the most often. That's what you want to see from a guy. And that's what you're seeing from him. The Cardinals clearly worked with him. They refined his arsenal, and we're seeing results. It's really good to see. Also, it just feels like if you go into Savant, you look at, the pitch logs from this year, like everything just is a little sharper. He's getting a little bit more break. He's getting a little bit more ride. It's great. All of his pitches seem to be trending in the right direction for the most part. This is a guy who I think you're going to continue to see good things from Liberatore. Maybe the ERA jumps up a little bit, but if he keeps like limiting walks like this, I mean, seriously, 2 walks this year, 98th percentile walk rate. That's unbelievable. And he's going to walk more. He's not going to be in the 98th percentile all year. But if he continues to limit walks at an above average rate, if he continues to limit hard contact, it's the lowest rate we've seen of him in opponents' pulled fly ball rate. That's down to 11.1% this year. So he's keeping the ball in the yard at a better rate too. Like all these are positive signs. I think Liberatore is probably in the rotation to stay at least for quite a while. I think he's going to be in the rotation all year. Barring injury, which is really great. It's good that the Cardinals are finding these guys. It seems like they've now isolated him and Andre Palante as like solid enough young starters that factor into the future. I don't think there's anything to complain about there.
Yeah. I mean, if there's one thing that we can look on so far this year that is a positive that we can look towards, the future, if he can continue this success, of course, Liberatore being a starter, Andre Palante being a starter, both cheap, pre-ARB guys. And, Michael McGreevy down at AAA, I think that he's going to factor himself into that conversation at some point. So gives you more leeway to potentially go after a top of the rotation starter. And I know we have Sonny Gray right now, but wouldn't it be nice to add another high-level starter right next to him? Maybe someone even a little bit above, the kind of production he's going to give you. And then we're talking about a rotation that's got 2 quality studs and 3 dependable mid-rotation types that are, affordable and cheap.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge. This is probably the first offseason in 5 or 6 years that you go into and you say, hey, these guys are under club control and we developed them and they're going to be in the rotation next year. I mean, however the season goes, it looks like they're going to enter the offseason and they're finally going to be able to point at Andre Palante and say that guy's in the rotation next year. And we're not going to have to talk about it all offseason like we did this year. It looks like they're going to be able to point at Libby and say, hey, we're going to let that guy pitch next year too. And so you're not plugging holes. The Cardinals always seem to be patching holes in the rotation. And that's why you extend Miles Mikolas. That's why you bring in Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson. And it's why you had to trade for Eric Fedde at the deadline. They're always patching these holes. Finally, it looks like they can actually save their money, consolidate it, and go out and get someone that's legit. And I'm sure we'll be talking about that for the rest of the year. And once the offseason comes, we'll be talking about them potentially pursuing a legit number 1 or frontline starter. But they can actually do that now. It's reasonable if you keep finding these guys. And, we need to see more. We want to see McGreevy get a chance this year. And I think he will. I think they've got to be getting near the end of their road with Miles Mikolas. It's got to be time for McGreevy soon enough here, especially with you running the 6-man rotation and knowing Steven Matz is pretty dependable at the moment. It's got to be time. Assuming Quinn Matthews can get healthy soon, or assuming Takao Roby can stay healthy, one of those guys could get a shot. And now you're looking at, potentially 3 or 4 homegrown talented starters that you can rely on. So really good to see that. I know we've been focusing a lot on the major league level, but the team is so young that it does feel like some of these guys are just like post prospects. And so there's still a lot to talk about here. But we are running it up there a little bit. Let's jump into some stock watch real quick. And then we should have time for a couple of Q&As. I know I've seen some good stuff in the chat to address. Stock watch with some of these guys. Who are you high on? Who's boosting their value right now early in the season?
Yeah, Sandy, I posted on Twitter and Instagram yesterday, three guys that I think are boosting their stock, so far this season. I think the first guy to talk about is we touched on him last episode, but he ended up hitting his 4th consecutive home run on that, Tuesday later that night. And not only did he do that, but he capped it off with a cycle, man, which is crazy.
It's insane.
Yeah. We're talking about first base catcher Josh Cross. Currently leads the Florida State League in home runs with 5 and extra base hits with 11. So
it's tough to hit in that league too. Like, I feel like it's really hard. So this is a big deal.
Absolutely. And it's just been awesome to watch him put together that level of power production. And the Cardinals organization, they're starving some, power guys in their system, in my opinion. So having a guy like Josh Cross, he's playing some catcher. We talked about that, but I do think that long-term he fits best at first base, but he's got the power to profile as a, first baseman. So I think that's been fun to watch him, just the way he's taken at bats. It feels like everything he's hitting is on the barrel. I know we talked about Jordan Walker earlier, and his top end exit velocities not being hit at the launch angles that you desire. Cross has been the opposite. I just want to read some of his top exit velocities. So out of his, I think 8 or 9 top exit velocities so far this year, all but 1 have been hit in between 18 to 35 degree launch angles. So that's a lot of extra base hits. We were talking about him leading the FSL in that. It's been really impressive. And I'd like to see him, potentially get promoted to Peoria soon. I think that the way he's performed this so far this year, it's been outstanding, and definitely one of the more exciting power bats in the organization. And is he someone that's creeping towards my top 30? I think that I would have him somewhere in that 20-30 range right now. If I was to, update my list based on what I've seen so far. I've just been super encouraged by the power. And yeah, I know it's an A ball and this is an advanced college bat, but I've been really impressed by not only the power, but the bat to ball skills have been good too. And when you have that offensive skill set, there's a lot to dream on, even if he's a first base DH type. We'll see what happens in terms of, his ability to play catcher long-term. But as of right now, maybe the most, I would say, yeah, he's been the most impressive offensive player in the organization thus far.
Great. Come on.
So that's my first guy I want to talk about. And then outfielder Travis Honeyman, former 3rd round pick, finally healthy. He's dealt with some shoulder stuff, had surgery, but this was someone who was considered a potential 1st round pick in 2023 before the season. Towards the end of that collegiate year for him at Boston College, he missed his final couple months with a shoulder injury. And he ended up sliding to the 3rd round where the Cardinals picked him. I believe he was the Cardinals' 2nd pick in that draft after Chase Davis. I think that they didn't have a 2nd rounder that year. It might've been because of the Wilson Contreras signing, if I remember correctly, but Honeyman, his bat to ball skills have been exceptional so far. 87% contact rate. He's consistently been hitting line drives. And the offensive skill set is there for him to be a pretty good player. Not a ton of, fly balls that are going to be home runs. It's been only a 6-game sample so far, but more so line drive kind of stroke. But he's been awesome. Like he's hit safely in all 6 games that he's played so far, hitting 500. And I know that I had him 27th on my preseason top 30 list, but I do think that this is someone that could push himself into that top 10 by the end of the year. I think that if there's anyone on this back third of the list my preseason list that's going to push himself into that top echelon of a prospect. I think it's Travis Honeyman. I was a little bit, I wouldn't say skeptical, but I was just cautious, just considering the fact that he hasn't played a lot. I want to see what, he's able to do at, in the minor leagues. He only played 20 games last year, and most of which came at the Florida Complex League. So I want to see him string together this success over the course of a season. But Honeyman is very talented. Like I said, potential first round pick before the 2023 season. And we're seeing why he was so highly touted. He's been so impressive. And the last guy I want to talk about, left-hand pitcher Bryson Motts. Speaking about a guy that is another top round pick. Motts was the Cardinals' second round pick a few years back. I think that when we're talking about a lefty with a weird release, I think that there are the traits for him to be a really fun arm. Had a down 2024 season at Peoria, 121 innings and 2/3 with a 5.18 ERA. Strung together some success at the end of that season, but overall just wasn't able to find that rhythm. Struggled a ton against right-handed hitters. And, he's got that fastball slider combo that, worked so well for him against lefties, but wasn't able to find that success against right-handed hitters. But so far this year, I think he's done a good job. I think that he's made some improvements in regards to his changeup. I think that when he went over to the Arizona Fall League, we saw some improved changeup specs, and he's carried that onto the season. He's also added a cutter. I wasn't sure if, just watching his first start, it seemed like he added a cutter, and, I reached out to him, and Motts told me that, he was working on a cutter this offseason, and it's a pitch that he believes that is going to be, one that should be a staple in his arsenal as he gets deeper into the season, and be a really important pitch for him against right-handed hitters. And, we've also seen the velocity creep up. So in terms of seeing the velocity up a tick from 92 to 93, 94 range. The changeup has looked stronger. He's added a cutter. I think there's a lot to like in terms of the improvements that we've seen from year to year. And the results, it's only been a 2-start sample. He does pitch tonight for Springfield. I think if you guys are watching right now, be sure to check out that game later tonight. But I think that Motts is someone, in terms of pitching prospects in the organization, I think that what I've seen so far, I've been really encouraged, and I think he could take a big step up. And I know we talked about Travis Honeyman creeping up in my prospect list, Josh Cross potentially being a top 30 guy. I didn't have Motts inside my top 30, but I do think that he's getting into that conversation for sure. And, the talent is certainly there, and it's cool to see him string together success in his first 2 starts of the season, and hopefully he can carry this over an extended period of time. And some of the underlying stuff that I'm seeing in terms of like I said, velocity, him improving that changeup, adding a cutter, I think that's the stuff that really encourages me so far this year. And to see the success to go along with that, it's been awesome.
Yeah, I mean, that's big time. The ability to build organizational depth, behind these top guys, because everyone's heard the old maxim, there is no such thing as a pitching prospect, because injuries are so prevalent. The ability to build depth all through your organization is huge. And to see the Cardinals doing that on the pitching side of things, beyond that top 4 of guys that we're excited about, it's really good to see. We want to see more of that as the year goes on. They're clamoring for Jeremy Rivas in the chat. The glazing is loading. It's in the show notes. Kareem, let's just get into Jeremy Rivas. Like, what is he doing? This power surge, is this real? You might be muted, or something's not coming through on my end.
Oh, my bad.
Hey, you're back. Okay. The Jeremy Rivas power surge from the top. Let's go.
Yeah, Rivas, I didn't include him as my, top 3 guys that, are trending up, but he's certainly a notable name. When you have a guy that has already, tied a career high in terms of home runs in his season. I mean, like talk about
of the games.
Man, I mean, going back to 2022, 117 games, 2 home runs. 2023, 115 games, 3 home runs. 123 games in 2024, 3 home runs. And so far this year in 12 games, he has 3 home runs.
It's big stuff.
So seeing that power tick up. The contact rates aren't, what we're accustomed to seeing from Jeremy Rivas, but this is someone that had a 057 ISO prior to this year, which, even for his skill set as this, versatile, like he's playing second base now with JJ getting that run at shortstop. But this is someone that could play a good, starting shorts or not starting. I'm getting ahead of myself, but I think he could play a solid shortstop. He's playing some second base. I think he can handle third. So as a versatile bench piece that can provide good defense, I think that there is the pathway to him becoming that. But I do want to see a little bit more offensively. It's been cool to see him put together this success so far. But as I said, 057 ISO prior to this year. I think we need to see him string together more success than just a 12-game sample for me to, have, conviction in him getting to that, potential as a bench piece. And even that, like, I don't see starting caliber potential in a Jeremy Rivas. I think we're looking at a more so bench piece, which not a ton of intrigue in that skill set, obviously, but it's been cool to see him hit home runs early this year, considering, he hasn't done that throughout his whole career. And when you pair that with the defense he provides, it's fun. But do think that if he does hit his stride, this is more of a bench piece. And I don't know how much stock is really, improving in regards to that, but
yeah,
a couple
but it's
other
a nice anecdote. It's nice.
Yeah, a couple other guys I want to briefly just talk about. Leonel Sequeira's fastball is up from 92 to 93, 94. The gyro slider has been a plus pitch for him, as we saw last year. Continues to show advanced feel for that offering and is just 19 years old. So I think that he's someone that, as long as he's succeeding, I think he's going to have up arrow next to his name. And then lastly, Luis Pino. I think he might have the best nickname in the organization. Super Mario.
It's pretty elite. I don't know. Lizard King's pretty solid. Miles Michaelis.
No, I got to go with Super Mario, man.
I love it. I love it.
But he's got an all-around 5-tool skill set. He's someone that, the exit velocities are popping so far. 106.4 mile an hour, 90th percentile EV, which is in the 96th percentile for FSL. He's also recorded 112.9 mile an hour max EV, which is the third best in the FSL behind Connor Griffin and Pirates catching prospect Oxiel Plaz. So the raw power is there. He's also recorded a 30.2 foot second sprint speed. So, and a 94.7 mile an hour throw. So we're looking at a potential 5-tool guy, a lot to iron out in terms of, what he's going to provide offensively. But you have to be encouraged by, some of what you've seen in Luis Pino so far when he's popping exit velocities that high, and he's still, pretty young. I think he's either 21 or 22. So I think he was another guy I just wanted to throw around because, those top end exit velocities are, pretty good.
Yeah, there's a lot to like there from a guy that's that young. So that's super exciting. But yeah, altogether, fun episode. It's good to see guys in the system trending upwards. We're bumping up against about 70 minutes, so probably gonna wrap it up here. But the big thing is when you're the Cardinals right now, and as Cardinals fans, we got to take the wins we're getting. Okay. We got to take the positives and enjoy them, savor them, hold on to them. Because it has been a bit of a tough year at the big league level for the club. They're now 9-14. But hey, there are things to be excited about, and that's what Birds on the Farm does. Okay, so when we get negative over on Dealing the Cards, you just come over here. There's always something because hey, there are 4 affiliates that we can talk about, and there's always something good happening. So we can always talk about someone adding velocity, eye-popping exit velos, things to be excited about, the future. You can always dream on it. So that's what we provide here. But Kareem, ton of fun today. Awesome stuff, lots of things to be excited about, and we've got cool things cooking, fun stuff. We'll be doing more Q&A next time. So seriously, throw stuff in the chat if you want to see it. I feel like we addressed a good amount of the comments in here. Maybe we can jump in. Well, we talked about this at the beginning of the show. So go back and check at the beginning of the show if you missed that. We talked about the Memphis shuttle and everything. But yeah, thanks so much for joining us today, guys. We will see you next time on Birds on the Farm.